If you haven't heard of Anchor by Spotify, you got to check it out. I've been using it for my podcast and it's been great. I can edit, I can record, I can distribute it to every platform I need, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's everything that you need to record your podcast in one place. You can use it on your phone app or you can use it on your computer. So you really need to go check it out. You can download it at your app store or you can download it at anchor.fm. Happy recording. Hello and welcome to EQaboveIQ, Parenting with Emotional Intelligence and Healing the Inner Child. My name is Trina Casey and I'm your host. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you, and thank you for everyone who is downloading my podcast and sharing with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe and sponsor this podcast, as it's something that I have started over the last couple of years to really talk about emotional intelligence, not only with parenting, but also parenting your own inner child. And right now, as so many things are happening in the world, we need that more than ever. And I truly believe that emotional intelligence is going to be the key to unlock the door to that healing. So you sponsoring this podcast helps me a lot and helps me continue to put out this content and other content to support that cause. So thank you. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about what emotional intelligence could do for young, misguided, and pretty depressed men. I am one of the people who has been grappling with yet another mass shooting in Buffalo, New York, and as all of the details come out about this, I know in my heart this could have been preventable. Of course, there is the normal gaslighting technique of the media to kind of brush this away. And what I find interesting about all this is that Will Smith's situation with Chris Rock seems to have been spun out of control with the media, but the fact that an 18-year-old armed to the hilt went into a local grocery store that he knew was mostly patronized by Black people and shot and murdered 10 people is not getting the same media attention and longevity. I know it is a painful story for Black people, and as a Black mother of a Black son, I find it difficult having to try to explain these tragedies because it's not like I can hide it from him anymore. He's, has friends discussing it, gaming, community discussing all kinds of things, all kinds of access to these tragedies, and all I can do is to explain to him that, it's not excusable and it's truly preventable. I am one of those people who does not believe that human beings are innately bad. I don't buy into the religious dogma. I'm a very spiritual person. I know that this young boy was indoctrinated like many of the people who are suffering. I'm not excusing him because he is and should be held accountable. But I think one of the techniques of indoctrination is to break the spirit down. And our culture and our current reality of narcissism really breaks down the spirit of people. It's like, I talk about it quite frequently with my clients as well, as I try to explain how the macro and the micro of our existence, how they coalesce together. and how we can bring that self-awareness and self-regulation into place to help have some compassion for ourselves. So, I truly try to understand, but at this point, I do know for sure that this is done on purpose. We have the minority of this world basically fear-mongering, gaslighting, and terrorizing the majority into compliance. And how emotional intelligence can prevent that is the piece of self-awareness that immediately stops our reaction in our tracks. If we become aware that we are triggered, if we become aware that we're feeling fear, if we become aware that we're feeling angry, and we try to understand where all that is coming from, we're less likely to start going into a point of blaming other people for those reactions. Now, other people may have sincerely triggered those feelings and emotions, but going to the point of buying guns and arming yourself to the hilt and putting protective gear, because he was protecting himself, that's for sure, to go in and murder people. Yeah. Had there been some self-awareness, had there not been this huge agenda led by white supremacy and their fear of this extinction that they think is happening, and what it is actual people waking up to the reality that we are all human and one, and we do not need to hate other people for any reason, whether it's for race, whether it's for gender, whether it's for sexual orientation. There's no reason for us to be hating anybody. And it actually is hate of self-loathing that causes us to hate others, and fear. Like the episode, why fear is crippling us. I talk about this a bit, but it's like I record a podcast and with the hopes that it will reach somebody, and it's reaching people, but maybe it's not reaching the right people. And that's why I really encourage everybody to share this podcast with people they may not normally share this with. Yeah, this is a hard one to talk about, just like all of the other ones. George Floyd really gutted me as well. But it just keeps happening. And it keeps happening because we have a media programming companies that are completely invested in misinformation and fear. They profit from it. They profit from our divide. And so the only way that we're going to really fix this problem is for the people who are in the greatest sense of fear to wake up and realize that they are living in a state of complete paranoia. On a personal level, I'm dealing with somebody who is constantly in a state of paranoia about what I say or do with my child and this and that, not wanting to acknowledge that, children grow and they mature and they start to understand the world, and the secrets that we try to keep people in a certain mindset, they always get revealed. I think of ancient Egypt when I think of Julius Caesar's burning down, and the biggest library in the world at the time was in Alexandria. And it was a purposeful destruction due to the fact that that had the truth of so much of who we are and where we come from and our origins within. And they desperately needed to rewrite that history in order to gain supremacy. And as more information is being unearthed, we know so much of what we have been taught in schools and education have been lies. And that lie is in every facet of everything that we know. And I think people are waking up to that reality. And I think if you're listening to my podcast as regularly as some of you have been, truth is the only true freedom from fear. And some people are so emotionally afraid to see the truth of themselves. They fall into narcissism. And it's painful to watch, It's painful to be awake at such a young age and see one's parents completely invest into a supremacy that would hinder the growth of a child. But many of us, I don't think they do it on purpose. They do it with the idea that they might be protecting their children. But our children are the ones who are the most awake. They're the ones asking and probing and questioning. And we endeavor too often to try to stifle that and use the excuse of protection. Protection from what? Protection of, protection from the power structures put in place to oppress us all. While our very emotionally intelligent children are telling me, Mom, Dad, that doesn't feel right. And when they question us, and we remember as a child when we questioned what happened, many parents do the same thing repeatedly and allow the generational trauma to continue. I just saw a interview with Mama Judd from the Judds. I'm not a country music fan per se, but I always like them. This daughter and mother country singing group. And she revealed that she had been dealing with crippling depression most of her life. And it was stemmed from being molested by her great uncle, when she was just 2-3 years old. And she didn't go into detail how long that lasted. But, as child trafficking, and I've talked about that, and pedophilia, previous episodes as well, still seem to be in the very fabric of patriarchy and all those systems. I just sometimes wonder, don't you ever just wonder, how and why? And it's not just little girls that are being treated this way. And the fact that I think it's 1 out of 4 women have been SA'd or sexually assaulted in their lifetime. I too am a victim of this. It just hasn't been working. And it's worked for a minority, but even for them, it's no longer going to start working, continue to work, I should say. Because at this point, everybody knows. And I think that more and more people are speaking their truth. Because if we don't speak our truth, and if we don't stop this particular abuse, we're going to self-destruct. And depression is a symptom of oppression. And we can no longer deny that. The gaslighting is not working anymore. We destroy the people who try to speak up. I saw that Will Smith was on the David Letterman show, and he also did ayahuasca like myself. And these medicines, and they are medicines, have been proven to truly reset the brain and the body away from trauma. And if you have never heard of it, I highly recommend it wherever you can find or go to do it legally. It really changes your perspective about yourself. It helps you reconnect with nature and the love of self. And it truly is healing. It's not painless because you will see what you are meant to see to heal yourself. And a lot of people have avoidant coping mechanisms. And if you are avoidant of your pain and your trauma, you will never heal from it, no matter how many medications you take. Mama Judd was saying that she had medicated, but the only thing that really helped was CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. And that's what I'm certified in. The only way to release that that programmed trauma response is to get underneath it. And when I'm coaching my clients, I hit the ground running. I want to know what the inner child is trying to tell the adult in you to heal from. What happened? What happened? Because until we discover what happened, we can't get to that deep healing that's necessary. And I've always been blessed with getting to the root of things in people. Sometimes to their disdain, sometimes to their joy. I just recently told a client that she had to remember to reminisce more than ruminate, because though they essentially have the same meaning to remember, when you reminisce, you think about the good things of a situation in the past. And then when you ruminate, you replay all that negativity over and over and over and over again. And none of it can be changed, and you can't get back those moments of joy from reminiscing. There's something called the 24-hour rule, and emotionally intelligent people do this. And I think it's one of the things that I did subconsciously most of my life. It's to give yourself 24 hours to celebrate something wonderful that happened, and then let it go, and give yourself 24 hours to vent, cry, yell, whatever you need to do emotionally other than murder or hit or be violent about something negative that's happened, a disappointment, a failure. Because everything in life is impermanence, as impermanence. There's no one thing that stays the same. And it's scary. It's painful for some. They need to create a routine, a schedule. And these things are helpful. But to understand that there might be a wrench thrown into your routine from time to time and not fall apart. Because if you fall apart, you then have a fixed mindset. And, I'm working with this on my son, with my son right now, because of the sadness that he's experiencing about his dad and I and our separation and imminent divorce, which I'm trying to get through. He has lost routine, and that fixed mindset will stop you from growth. The growth mindset, meaning, okay, this is a temporary situation. It's not going to last forever. It's just right now. It's right now. Excuse the background noise. I don't know what's going on. But the point is this. You have options to look at things. You can look at things as in, I haven't gotten it yet when you're learning something, or you can look at it as, I'm never going to learn this. And right now, the whole of our society, and I would say this is almost globally, is in a fixed mindset around everything, around work, around play, around health, it's a fixed mindset. And there's a real lack of awareness of how fixed everything has been set up in culture and society to create a sense of security, not for the masses, but for the minority. They don't want their money to train to be disrupted. And if anything, COVID and this pandemic has taught us is that an inflexibility can make you lose your mind. I don't want to buy into this idea that this young man, going back to the Buffalo mass shooting, I don't want to buy into the fact that it was just COVID that made him go and murder 10 people in cold blood. No. It was a upbringing of hate and ideology reinforced by family, friends, peers, Fox News, media outlets, whether it's online. He basically focused on confirming his bias for one reason or the other, and he never got to the root of his suffering. But I'm still gonna, like all of the shooters who have been doing these things, especially very young ones, I'm still looking at their families. I'm still looking at their upbringing, because this is deeply embedded in the psyche of America and other colonized countries. And then it's always interesting how it's young men who are perpetuating these crimes, young, white males. And there's some of them called INCELs, which is involuntarily celibate. And it was the the Secret Service who did a study, and they said the biggest threat to Americans right now is this domestic violence committed by these involuntary celibate young men. And that's because we are now, as women, free to make our own money. We're not dependent on men for our anything, really. And there has been a huge effort by the media and TikTok and all these other platforms to really divide the masculine and the feminine. And it's really heartbreaking to see that these deeply insecure, hurt young men who hold on to a patriarchal system that is basically set up to oppress them as well. You know, they're not getting the results that they were being promised, and no one is getting the results that they were promised, but especially them. And that's because they are extremely entitled to a power. They think they're mentally entitled to a power that they actually don't yield. Never yield it. You know, it's a very few. And even now, young girls and young women are no longer interested in men for their money because they can make their own, like I said previously, but also we want more. You know, I'm single now. I don't really care about your money. I care about your personality. I care about how you treat me. I care about how that person would treat my child, since he's a part of the package. I don't really care. I want to know about your emotional intelligence. I want to know how you grow and think as an individual person, and can you respect yourself and respect me at the same time. Matter of fact, you probably can't respect me unless you respect and love and have compassion for yourself. And I say compassion, not this false sense of self, not the mask, not the inflated, grandiose, narcissistic version of what manhood is supposed to be, because that's fake. It was fake from the very beginning of time. They were just insecure, scared, abused men getting on ships, exploring the world, and they were not, la creme de la creme. They were pretty beat up and by the culture and society that they came from. So we need to get real with these things, or we're going to have more young men like him blame other people for their feelings of inadequacy, their feelings. They have to own their triggers, and they have to find ways to be accountable for them so that they don't harm others. And, I'm just tired of making these podcast episodes about mass shootings or murders or senseless wars. And because they're senseless, it's macho, toxic masculinity, and with a layer of, this is my stuff and I want to take your stuff. It's not necessary for humanity to survive. It's only necessary for a segment, very small segment of humanity to survive. And so, what are you today going to do different in your life? Where are you going to use, and especially my friends who are Caucasian listening to this or identify as non-people of color, what are you going to do? Because there are a lot of voices talking about Will Smith, about violence, and violence is not the way. So what are you doing now if violence wasn't the way with him as a black man? Why aren't you speaking about this? It's like crickets out there. I'm on almost every social media platform. It's crickets compared to Will Smith. It's almost like business as normal, or business as usual, as I say. Anyways, I'm going to leave you with that. What are you going to do differently? And to all my Black, BIPOC, people, what are you going to do different too to heal? Are you talking to somebody? Are you checking in with somebody to make sure they're okay? Because this is some pretty painful, traumatic stuff that we keep getting exposed to. It's fear-mongering. I want you afraid. So I'm going to ask you not to embrace fear. Embrace determination. I'm not telling you not to cry. I'm not telling you not to have emotions about it. But I need you to dig deep and find the determination to heal yourself so that you can help heal other people. If you need help with that, please go to thisreallifebooks.com, click on the coaching tab, click on the Are We a Fit meeting. I give a free 15 minutes so that we can see if this is a connection that can move forward. I also, I just need you all to take accountability for your healing. There's no more blaming. There's, sure, there are situations and circumstances, but now everybody's got to get accountable for their healing to change things. Okay? We got to get accountable. And so, with that, I send so much healing compassion, and love to everyone listening to this podcast right now. Reach in, hold your inner child, and let them know you got this. You got them, because they need this right now. They need protection. They need to feel safe. And if you are fortunate enough to have someone next to you by your side to give you that hug you need, please go get it. And if that person that's next to you needs that hug, please wrap your arms around tight. Hold them longer than a second, 20 seconds minimum. Hold them. Exchange that energy. Exchange that love. Dissipate the fear and give the support. Okay? Let's help each other breathe, because that's what we need right now. We need to get together and breathe. And I thank you once again for listening to EQ Above IQ, Parenting with Emotional Intelligence and Healing the Inner Child. Read some books to your kids, order some, get some t-shirts to remind you. Gentle reminders shirts and clothing are all about gently reminding each other that we are on this human, compassionate, brain hardwired human, compassionate journey together. And we can solve this. I have hope that we can solve this. And have a blessed day.